The combination of price and quality Hyundai Tucson has no equal. Statistics accumulated since 2004 suggests that even 5-year-old cars are not bad. In our secondary market, most Tucsons are native Russians. At one time they were sold through a network of official dealers. Although there are representatives of this model with an American, European, and even Korean past, their differences are manifested in trim levels, but by and large, everything that a modern crossover is supposed to have is present. Here it is worth noting one more thing. Not all Tucsons are all-wheel drive. Especially among the Americans, there are many front-wheel drive cars, and there are also cars without ABS. Well, for full-fledged representatives, four-wheel drive is implemented by a system operating on the principle of TOD, torque on demand, which means torque on demand. A multi-plate electromagnetic clutch integrated in the rear axle gearbox connects the second axle when the front wheels slip. The same happens after pressing the 4WD lock button, but this mode only works up to a speed of 40 km/h. Problematic all-wheel drive transmission cannot be called, although, of course, the clutch can be overheated by prolonged slipping, and there is a chance to damage the cardan shaft off-road. No, we are not talking about the fact that the shaft can be bent, but only about damage to the rubber covers of its hinges or about the silent block of the outboard bearing. The engines are represented by a petrol 4 2.0L, 140 horsepower, and V6 2.7L, 173 horsepower. There are cars with 2.0L, 115 horsepower, and 2.0L, 140 horsepower, turbo diesels, but they are few. Turbo diesels lit up with troubles associated with fuel equipment, but the main reasons here are the quality of the fuel, as well as the wear of the elements of the fuel supply system. As for gasoline engines, their filling is very hardy. No wonder they have a 5-year warranty. But in addition to the mechanical part, there is also an electrical one, but it is not so problem-free. Failures of various sensors, crankshaft, oxygen, idle, happen. Spark plugs, ignition coils also do not have a high resource. Well, once again we recall that due to a rare oil change, all the insides of the engine can be slagged with layered deposits in American women, and this is a direct path to serious damage. Timing belts with rollers in our conditions are supposed to be changed every 60,000 kilometers, abroad, 90,000 kilometers. Cases of broken belts due to non-compliance with this regulation are known, and the consequences are often very costly. By the way, when replacing the timing belt, one must not forget about the crankshaft pulley. It happens that the rubber damper exfoliates from it, and the drive belts do not last very long. Radiator leaks, sometimes leading to engine overheating, are a common phenomenon, and the point here is exclusively in anti-icing reagents. However, this Russian misfortune does not bypass many cars, including eminent manufacturers. By the way, you should not count on the modest appetite of the engines. The gasoline 4 in the combined city/highway cycle eats at least 12 liters, and for the V6, the figure of 15 liters is still a very good indicator. Diesel engine 140 horsepower with, in the city fit into 12 liters. Manual transmissions are generally reliable, and isolated cases of malfunctions in the shift stage and associated with synchronizers cannot be attributed to branded source. Even the cars of the beginning of production had leaks in the clutch master cylinders. As for the automatic transmission paired with the V6 and TD 2.0, 140 horsepower, it caused problems for copies produced before the end of 2006. It also included breakdowns in the control valve block and failures in electronic control. The chassis is not the strongest side of the crossover. Structurally, the front suspension is McPherson, the rear is an independent multi-link. Racks and bushings of the front and rear stabilizers rarely take care of more than 50 to 70,000 kilometers. The front subframe supports are about the same. Shock absorbers up to 100,000 kilometers do not survive for all specimens. The same can be said about the hub bearings, with the rear hubs requiring more attention than the front ones. Ball bearings and silent blocks of levers on good roads are by no means a consumable, but, alas, we have few such roads. In the brake system, the brake discs run out very quickly. Of course, it all depends on the driving style, but a resource of 40 to 60,000 kilometers for a car of such weight and class is not so great. A small batch had an unpleasant malfunction, manifested by spontaneous removal from the handbrake. The steering system does not cause any complaints, and isolated cases of replacing racks and power steering pumps do not spoil the picture as a whole. In the cabin, a small dirty trick is known, associated with the falling off lining on the gearshift knob. A drop of superglue resolved the issue radically. Breakdowns of the driver's seat, cup holders, armrests are more likely accidents multiplied by the mass/strength of the participant in the process. It happened that the outboard air temperature sensor failed. The brains of the climate control unit jammed. Well, there were leaks in the air conditioning system. The electricians are not particularly worried about the owners, but nevertheless, something has accumulated. Airbag sensors, native music systems, heated seats are out of order, and the short life of all kinds of light bulbs is surprising. I would especially like to note that everything bad that is known about Tucson is collected here, and so that there is no positive behind the scenes, I will clarify that many owners did not know any problems with the car even with a mileage exceeding 100,000 kilometers. And one more thing, since the car is fresh enough, what will happen to it with really high mileage is too early to say. But, as you know, a pessimist is a well-informed optimist, so let's do without forecasts. Nissan Qashqai I-Generation. Nissan Qashqai with the 2-liter engine follows the right pedal like a cat follows a mouse. And there is no need to use the quasi-manual mode in Nissan. After 15 to 20 minutes, the variator itself perfectly adapts to any driving style. Qashqai easily enters into turns, rests firmly on all 4 paws. The reconfigured electric power steering finally stopped working as a misinformer. The reactive action is already close to natural. And if you turn off the stabilization system and forcibly block the rear-wheel drive clutch, then you can play rally driver on the dirt road. Instead of the previous rumble on the potholes, Nissan thoroughly swallows them with a slight smack. Little things are worked out harder, but Qashqai makes a solid impression. Try to avoid 2008 models with the 2.0 petrol engine. Some engines got a piston group with a factory defect. It causes increased oil consumption and needs to be replaced. The premature death of the Jatco CVT can be ensured by a late oil change or the use of cheap substitutes. Also, the variator can finish off the brake system. When replacing front pads in garage services, mechanics often do not release the air remaining under the rubber boot of the caliper piston. As a result, the cover is torn and the piston is wedged due to dirt. Due to the braking wheels, the variator works with slipping and quickly fails. In electrics, the main problems are caused by the stove fan and its resistor, and the weak link of the suspension is the support bearings of the front struts. Due to the poor location, dirt gets into them. The grease is quickly washed out, and the bearing begins to crackle. In a word, Qashqai has enough problems. But thanks to the huge selection of non-original spare parts, repairs do not hit your pocket hard. Engines. The 2-liter M9 or diesel is the best choice, but you need to pay attention to the integrity of the plastic pipes of the return of the fuel system. The 1.5-liter K9K diesel engine developed by the French from Renault is weak in crankshaft connecting rod and main bearings. The 6-speed, automatic Jatco JF613E is no trouble. The maintenance of the Jatco JF011E variator is expensive. The main consumables are a belt and a stepper motor responsible for changing gears. In the Euro NCAP frontal crash test at 64 km per hour, the Nissan Qashqai earned the highest possible score. Despite the fact that Qashqai does not have a knee airbag for the driver, the legs of both front riders did not come into contact with the front panel. This is the merit of double seat belt pretensioners. As a result, 15.8 points out of 16 possible and a solid 5 stars. The protection of passengers and children is also well developed, 4 stars out of 5. But the safety of pedestrians is at an average level. Too hard edge of the hood prevented earning more than 2 stars.